Now, I've only got 2 film reviews this week, but I promise they will fit equally into the space of 3. It's kind of a hemiola, or is it hemiola, for the music theory nerds out there. If you get that joke without having to look it up, let me know. Here we go. First up, we've got Prey, directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who also directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. That was a good one with John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Prey stars Amber Midthunder, who was also in one of my favorite TV shows of all time called Legion. Well, go look that one up. And since we think screenwriters are important around here at this Carl King podcast, Prey was screenwrited by Patrick Aison. Now, I looked up Patrick Aison, and coincidentally, he has a credit as a consultant on Legion, although most of his other credits are as a TV producer. Okay, digging into the review, this movie did not have a ton of dialogue. There were plenty of slow scenes, and I actually mean that in a good way. It really took its time. It was what I would call cinematic. And after about 21 minutes in, I made a note to myself that I was starting to feel that this movie is a little bit of a video game. But hey, it's an action movie. And I don't know why I went into it expecting something different. And a lot of people love action movies. They want that adrenaline. They want all the fighting and explosions. You know, they get high off of it. But Carl King doesn't need any of that. So when I realized, oh man, I'm watching an action movie, I no longer felt intrigued by what might happen next. I mean, basically, they're hunting a bad guy in the woods. So what surprising thing can really happen? We probably know where this is all going. Spoiler alert, Amber Midthunder's character and some other Comanche warriors are out in the wilderness hunting. And they think they're hunting a lion, but we find out it's not a lion. Now, this is a basic adventure movie. You've got a good guy and a bad guy, but we have a different aesthetic here. It's an aspiring female Comanche warrior versus an evil skull-collecting demon from outer space. Now, that's a new combination. But at the core, this whole story could have been swapped out for a knight against a dragon or a coyote against a roadrunner, because it's really just a simple battlefield story. The only thing that changes on the surface is the costumes. You know, you could dress them up however you want because the structure is there. And there's not much else to Prey's plot other than the B-story of Amber Midthunder's character proving that she is a warrior. But this is a movie with modern cultural relevance because, you know, lots of people are happy to see a Native American, especially a Native American woman, in the lead role of such a big franchise. So that's pretty cool that they were able to make that happen. And regarding the Predators, I'm sure this has been pointed out before, but boy, their cloaking technology is pretty crappy, isn't it? I mean, half the time you can still see them there, and the other half the time it totally malfunctions and shuts off. You know, many times throughout the movie, Amber Midthunder's character actually has face-to-face run-ins with the Predator, but conveniently, every time, something will interrupt them and she's able to run off and escape. I mean, because if they went at it right away, the movie would have been over in the first encounter. But it did feel a bit like the plot was being forced along by that. Oh, and here's something. Sarah Schachner did the musical score. And that brings us to another crazy coincidence. Or maybe there are no coincidences. I attended a film composing panel discussion thing years ago in LA. And during the Q&A, I even got to ask Sarah Schachner a question about her NASA Cassini scoring project, which she did with a bunch of analog synthesizers. Anyway, guess who was on the panel discussion sitting right next to her? That's right, you guessed it. Jeff Russo. You're like, Jeff Russo? Okay, well maybe you didn't guess it, but Jeff Russo happens to be the composer for the TV show called Legion. Yeah, you knew it was going to be Legion again, didn't you? See how this all comes back to Legion? Now, I think there's more going on than we are being told. Maybe Ian Punnett can explain it. Okay, so back to the Prey review. There are a few moments of bald exposition, with the characters stating facts out loud. And there's actually a scene where Amber Midthunder's co-star turns to her and says something like, "We have to run." Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And the whole monsters roaring and screaming was a bit much. Like, how many times do we need to see that? Because I had barely recovered from all of that roaring and screaming in Jurassic World, whatever it's called. But I was thinking about it, and what else are monsters going to do when they make an entrance in a movie? I mean, they're just going to stand there? I don't really have a better suggestion, so we're going to stick with all the roaring and screaming for a while, I guess. Okay, so how much can Carl King really complain about this Prey movie? Well, it did have a fresh take on the Predator franchise, and Amber Midthunder did a super job in the role, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to love it. So I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, because it was definitely better than average.